Oh, good God, I need a drink. And by the way, I don't think I'm the only one. If you listen to people in the Democrat Party right now, I swear I think they're about ready to go on a bender. Hi, hello, how are you out there in internet land? My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome to the Monday night session of Chattin On The Porch, a live stream dedicated to you, the hardworking brothers and sisters out there that make America what it is today, one of the best places on earth to live, if not the best. We're on Rumble, we're on Twitter, we are on that quaint little alternative social media platform known as YouTube. So if you haven't done it yet, send out a tweet, send out a getter, send out a gab, send out a Facebook post, wherever you are out there on social media, and tell everybody to get their butts in here because, oh boy, have we got a lot to talk about tonight. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, known sometimes as the beau in the chapeau. Sometimes I'm called the common man with common sense, but more importantly, above all else, I am called your host. As I say, we are on Rumble, we are on Twitter, and we are on YouTube. So settle in, folks, because we got a bunch of stuff to talk about tonight. Oh my goodness, we're going to have a load of fun this evening. Good to have you all here. Oh, let's see. I'll tell you, somebody's feeling sassy tonight. Gypsy's already firing off. I'll be keeping a keen eye on you tonight, BT, to see if I can detect if you are a cheap fake, as JKP puts it. Well, madam, I will have you know, I may be many things, but I am most certainly not cheap. Anyway, no, glad to have you here. We're going to have a load of fun tonight. We'll see who else is settling in now. All you rumblers over there, you bunch of lurkers, daggone it, I'm calling you out right now. First of all, I want a thumbs up out of you guys, and y'all over on YouTube, I want a thumbs up out of you guys. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please do so. Oh, which, by the way, as soon as the music kind of dies down here in a minute, we've got some news to share with regard to... Stop that. Shame on you. All right, hang on a minute, folks. Gotta... kill. Oh my lord, I'm totally off kilter already. I'm not even 5 minutes into this stream. Good grief. Oh, hello guys. How you doing tonight? So good to have you here for Chatting on the Porch. And first things first, I need to send out some thank yous. My channel over the weekend on Rumble has now gone over 200 subscribers. Yes! That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We have now punched through the 200 subscriber mark on Rumble. Greatly appreciated. Yes, I see all you lurkers out there on Rumble, all 8 of you that are sitting up so far, which will probably turn into 80 or 100 or 800. Who knows? We'll have a big crowd tonight. So I need to give some thank yous to, let's see, Norman54 has now subscribed on Rumble. Thank you, Norman. We genuinely appreciate it. And Tennessee Outlaw, who has been a regular of mine on YouTube, he's now subscribed to me. So there you go. And Robert's in the house. Robert's one of our regulars and absolutely our one of our favorites here. So yeah, we glad to see you. It's going to be a good evening, folks, and we got a lot to talk about. So thank you to those who have now pushed my Rumble channel over 200 subscribers. I genuinely appreciate it. We're going upwards and onwards from here. And yeah, much thanks. It is truly, I mean that in all sincerity. All right, let's get down to business, y'all. I'll tell you what, can you smell it out there? Ooh, the fear that is coming over the Democrat Party, the progressive left, the woke-tards, everybody. I'll tell you what, everybody associated right now with the Democrat Party, man, there is absolute abject panic. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get on a whole bunch of things related to it tonight. And I'll have some words of caution. I'll hopefully have some words of wisdom. And yeah, usually if you get a whiff of a progressive Democrat, there's a certain amount of stink on them. It's kind of patchouli, but yeah, what are you going to do? But yeah, there's a lot to be said tonight. So yeah, strap in, y'all. We got a lot to talk about. This past weekend kind of reminded me of Dickens's great novel, A Tale of Two Cities. And you all know how the book starts out. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Well, for Donald Trump's campaign for the America First MAGA movement, man, they had a good old-fashioned party in the Motor City, Detroit. And yes, Gypsy, I'll bet you were just as happy as a clam with everything going on in your beloved Michigan this weekend. On the West Coast, Joe Biden was holding a fundraiser, and monetarily it was very successful, but there's a lot of things that have come out of that fundraiser that, oh man, if there weren't some nervous beads of sweat going down foreheads all throughout the Democrat Party before, this weekend is just making it worse. And the copium that's being passed around or passed out by the Biden White House right now is it's hysterical in one sense, and the amount of it is extraordinary. We're going to get to some of that too here in a minute. So I said that this weekend kind of reminds me of Dickens's Tale of Two Cities, and I think you're going to see what I'm talking about here in a minute. I want to start our discussions tonight with an article from Politico. And even with Politico, there's a certain amount of cope that's going on. So let me get this thing pulled up for you guys. And I think you're going to begin to understand what I'm talking about here in just 1 second. Headline: Trump rallies MAGA base, courts black voters in Detroit. The former president's 2 appearances illustrated the ground Trump still has to make up with black voters. Article by Natalie Allison, we had the following. Dateline Detroit. In a span of 2 hours on Saturday, Donald Trump walked onto stages twice in this battleground state, once as pyrotechnics flashed around him before some 8,000 MAGA loyalists, and earlier in a predominantly black church where he is still laboring to make gains. For Trump, who is trying to rally base voters while also cutting into President Joe Biden's support among people of color, the appearances at 2 different ends of the city and with 2 starkly different demographics illustrated the ground Trump still has to make up here. Okay, now, first of all, I want to stop here for a second. With all due respect to this Natalie Allison, I'm sure she's a very competent reporter / journalist. Okay, but I got a problem with the way you're phrasing this. Now, don't get me wrong. It's almost a foregone conclusion before any Republican nominee for president gets to Election Day that they are not going to win a majority of the African American or Hispanic vote, although there have been some Republicans who've come very close. I think it was, I want to say in my recollections, it was 2004, where George W. Bush got within 4 points of John Kerry when it came to the Hispanic vote. I mean, he wasn't very far off of him at all. But everybody sort of understands going in, okay, a Republican is not going to fare very well with the African-American community. That said, however, I think Miss Allison is just being a little bit ungenerous in her assessment, or maybe perhaps it's better to say she's being, not untruthful. Let's just say I don't think she fully realizes what's happening at this point. I think saying that, Trump still has ground to make up here, I don't know that he's got as much ground as she's letting on, but let's get a little further into this article. Unlike with his base at the mostly white Turning Point Action Conference inside a downtown convention center, Trump's reception at a church in a low-income neighborhood, while mostly warm, was at times reserved or in one case worse. A lone heckler seated in the back, wearing a medical mask beneath her nose, spoke back to Trump throughout his remarks about he would not address COVID, shouting at one point for him to drink some bleach. And some of Trump's harshest rhetoric on illegal immigration, including that black people should repel what he called an invasion of your jobs, drew only tepid applause, though the crowd rose to its feet as he bashed radical left-wing gender ideology, among other topics that resonated. Quote, "This is a very nice church, by the way, very nice," Trump said after arriving at 180 Church on the west side of Detroit. The afternoon sun beamed onto the sanctuary through panels of stained glass, the cracks in some of which were patched with pieces of duct tape. Okay, let us talk about some of this, shall we? All right, we got a clip here of part of that meeting at the African American church. It is no great secret that Donald Trump has been trying to make serious inroads with the African American vote. And we've got a clip here from CNN a little bit later. If you wonder how well he's doing, I think you're going to begin to see it's better than what Miss Allison is letting on. Yeah, and I agree with this completely. They are absolutely terrified of this. And I'm telling you, when we get to this clip from CNN, man, the numbers are absolutely frightening. Yeah, I agree with that. Agree with that completely. Hello, Zippy. WWG1's dropped in over on Rumble. How you doing over there, WWG1? So, yeah, good to have everybody here tonight. But I don't think don't get me wrong. Is Donald Trump going to win a majority of the African-American vote in a presidential election? Of course not. But if he gets in the high teens, Biden's in serious trouble. And as the polling right now, Trump's in like the low 20s, depending on whose poll you look at. Now, does that mean he's going to get the low 20s on election day? I doubt it. But if he gets anywhere from 15 to 20%, Biden's sunk. Because if that's going to be an indication of how well he does with Hispanics and various other demographics in the voting bloc of America, then I'm telling you right now, Trump gets anywhere from 15 to 20% with African Americans, Biden's going to have a very hard time making that up on election night. But let's go to one of the clips from this weekend. And this is from the appearance at the church on the west side of Detroit. Now, Gypsy, if you know anything about this area that they're mentioning in that article, matter of fact, let me pop back over here real quick. That church was named. Let me find it again here. 180 Church on the west side of Detroit. Like I said, it's your neck of the woods. If you know something about it, feel free to drop it in chat because I'd be very interested to know. But here is basically, whoa, stop that. Okay, all right, here we go. This is from Trump's appearance at the 180 Church, and this clip runs about a minute and a half. I'll play the whole thing, and you guys tell me what you think. Drop your comments in chat. I want to hear it from everybody. Yes, Zippy, indeed, they are smoking a lot of Hunter's copium. I agree with that completely. Ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor and check this out.
Basically, tomorrow you're going to do that anyway. So, go ahead and share now.
President Trump, I'm so humbled that you would be here. President Obama never came to the hood, so to speak, right? President Joe Biden, he went to the big NAACP dinner, but he never came to the hood.
Now, I do want to stop for 1 second here. Okay, all right, Gypsy, thank you for this. I was sort of curious about this. Deep in the hood, okay? Folks, you can say what you want to about retail politics, and God knows people will, especially in the internet age where we're all about the digital message and we're all about the quick little 30-second soundbite. We're all about the getting the thing out there on social media, the TikTok, the whatever. But there is still something to be said for going somewhere, meeting someone, look them in the eye, shake their hands and say, "My name is, and I want your vote." Notice what this gentleman at this church said. Hey, Barack Obama never came here. He never came to the hood. Joe Biden came to a nice dinner. He never came to the hood. You came to the hood. I'm telling y'all, and y'all can call me crazy if you want to, which you probably will anyway, of which I will deserve it. But you get my point. That sort of thing resonates with people. They remember. Years ago, when I was working in campaigns, I had an unofficial mentor by the name of Bob Winchester. He's a good old boy from Southern Illinois. I shouldn't say good old boy, but he was. Bob was just a heck of a nice guy. And Bob, one of the first and most important lessons Bob Winchester ever taught me, the press. Brian, the press. We've got to get the press. And when he meant the press, he didn't mean like the Chicago Tribune or the Springfield Journal-Register. He meant local little newspapers, the little weeklies, okay? and there are not that many of them around anymore, but in that part of Illinois where I was living at the time, the weekly newspaper on the weekend, people read those things. And if it mentioned on the front page that such and such candidate came to small town Illinois and shook hands with whoever, that meant something. It might be 2024 and we might be in the digital age, the internet age, but I'm telling you right now, the fact that Donald Trump went into the hood, or as Gypsy says it here, the deep, deep hood, and sat down with African-American pastors from all over Detroit, that's going to resonate. Now, does it mean that he automatically carries Michigan? No idea. Does it mean he carries a bigger percentage of the African-American vote? No idea. But it's going to resonate. Anyway, let's get back to the clip. Let you hear the rest of this. Yeah, struggling to make up ground with the African-American vote. My foot, Miss Allison.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Very humble, really nice. Thank you. My honor.
Wait a second. Is that Spike Lee on the end over here? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway.
Our community is disenfranchised, we're marginalized, we're pushed aside. And there are two things that are happening with crime and employment. You're an entrepreneur. How do you see funding entrepreneurs, specifically keeping the Black dollar in the Black community? Let me explain. If I want to eat, I have to give my money to the Albanians at Coney Island. If you want to get gas, you need to go to the Chaldeans. If you want to have your hair look like mine, you got to go to Asians. And I thank God for Asians. My wife is right there. She's Asian. Our children are Blasian. So I give it up to my Asian brothers and sisters. But we don't keep the Black dollar in the Black community. You're an entrepreneur. What does it look like for Black entrepreneurs to be able to get the resources they need so we don't look for a handout, but a hand up?
Yes.
And that's a great question. And Trump did go on to answer it.
Is with us.
That. My computer's got a mind of its own tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the audience a good friend of the Electronic Front Porch, Mr. Darius Simpson. Sir, we are glad to have you here, my friend. And he's going to be appearing later this month for a section of Chattin On The Porch on a Saturday afternoon, 29th at 3 o'clock, if memory's off the top of my head is good. But Darius is going to come back. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of other things. So keep that in mind going forward and into the near future. But yeah, good to have you here tonight. A rare appearance by my friend, but I'm glad to have him here nonetheless. Good to have you, sir. So more information coming out of Trump's appearance in Detroit. Don't know if you guys saw this, but this is going to make a difference too. From justthenews.com, former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick endorses Trump for president. The campaign also announced the creation of Black Americans for the Trump Coalition. Article by Madeline Hubbard, we have the following. Dateline Detroit. Former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick and other Black American leaders endorsed former President Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee's campaign announced. Trump commuted Kilpatrick's prison sentence for fraud and racketeering on his last day in the Oval Office, and the former president's campaign quoted Kilpatrick's endorsement in an announcement on Saturday, alongside the endorsements of other prominent Black Americans. Quote, I can never thank President Trump enough for what he's done for me and for my family by giving me freedom. And I believe this election and the issues involved are personal to every family and to every person in America, Kilpatrick, who served as a Democrat in the Michigan House of Representatives, said. The campaign also announced the creation of Black Americans for Trump Coalition. Quote, while Black Americans have been left behind by Joe Biden, President Trump has prioritized the Black community, Team Trump Black Media Director Janiyah Thomas said in a statement. The former president also received endorsements from leaders such as Senator Tim Scott, Republican South Carolina, Representative Byron Donalds, Republican Florida, Representative Wesley Hunt, Republican Texas, Pastor Darrell Scott, radio host Larry Elder, among others. However, Kilpatrick's endorsement of Trump may prove vital as the swing state of Michigan is expected to play an important role in determining the outcome of the 2024 election. Oh my goodness. I tell you what, rocking and rolling all the way around. Woo! All right. Aside from appearing in the hood, Trump was also at a Turning Point USA event in Detroit, and we got a snippet of his remarks from there. I think we ought to play it. And this is Trump at Turning Point. Folks, check it out. Tell me what you think.
For decades before I took office, Joe Biden and his cronies in Washington got rich by selling off Michigan jobs and selling out Detroit. That's what they did. That's why your car business is so far down. You used to have 100% of the car business. Now you're down to probably 30% by comparison to what it was. Crooked Joe backed NAFTA, the worst trade deal we ever had. China's entry into the World Trade Organization, another disaster. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, he wanted that so badly, would have totally destroyed this state. The Paris Climate Accord, where we put up $1 trillion and nobody else puts up anything, one of the most unfair deals. Sounds good, but it was a disaster. And every other globalist disaster that sucked the life and wealth and blood out of our country, and that's what it was doing. But after decades of Joe Biden putting America last, Michigan finally got a president who put America first. That's what happened. That's what happened.
Okay. All right. Now, there is one other thing out of what I call MAGA in the Motor City that happened this weekend that I am heartened by. I'm not surprised by it. And I'm hoping that it's got legs. As you all know, I am very fond of the work of Richard Barris, otherwise known as the People's Pundit. And Charlie Kirk, who is the head of Turning Point USA, commissioned Barris as the head of Big Data Poll to do a straw poll at the event to try and get a feel from the activists who were there who they would like to see as the vice presidential nominee to run with Trump. Well, folks, I'm not surprised by the result, but what got me were the numbers involved. Check this out. Headline from Breitbart. Turning Point Action Straw Poll shows J.D. Vance favored for Trump Veep. Article by Elizabeth Weibel. We've got the following. Senator J.D. Vance, Republican Ohio, won a straw poll conducted at Turning Point Action's People's Convention over the weekend regarding who voters want to see serve as former President Donald Trump's vice president. Big Data Poll conducted a straw poll which surveyed 1,986 people at the convention and found 43% were in favor of Vance running as Trump's vice president, according to the UK Daily Mail. Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, described Vance as one of Trump's, quote, most capable and articulate defenders and surrogates. Other options for vice president included Tim Scott, Republican South Carolina, Marco Rubio of Florida, and Governor Doug Burgum, Republican of North Dakota. Scott received, now check this out, 15%. Rubio got 7%, and Burgum got 7%. In simpler language, ladies and gentlemen, if you took the other three options and you tallied up everything they got, all of it together wouldn't match what J.D. Vance got. Now, I mention this for a reason, a couple of reasons. And one of them is just purely selfish on my part. I mean, you guys kind of know where I'm at when it comes to J.D. Vance. I would love to see J.D. run with Donald Trump. And I've articulated some of those reasons before. If he winds up being the Veep nominee, I'll explain in full detail what it gets down to. But I saw a quote, and I wish I had it pulled up. The former communications director for Vice President Kamala Harris flat out said, and like I said, I wish I had the article, flat out said that if Trump picks J.D. Vance for the Veep, that Vance will pose a serious debate challenge for Kamala Harris. Frankly, I was very shocked by that admission. I really was. I mean, it's not untrue. Vance is extraordinarily articulate, but I was surprised. I was surprised that a Democrat apparatchik would actually admit to something like that. Zippy over on Rumble says Second Amendment mitigates crime, stops governmental interference, and allows people to protect themselves. Without that, no amount of money will help the black community. Protect and spread Second Amendment rights should help and protect black communities. I agree with that. I agree with that completely. But yeah, Vance won the poll. Now, am I surprised by it? No. There is right now an absolute love in the grassroots base of the Republican Party for J.D. Vance. Yeah, and I agree. Darius, I absolutely agree with this. It would be very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it is. There's a lot to Vance. I personally, this is just me. I hope Trump takes him for the Veep. Yeah, the downside would be that if Trump wins, Governor DeWine picks his replacement. But on the other hand, what you get in the long term versus what you lose in the short term, to me, makes that an easy choice. Take Vance and don't look back. There's a love for J.D. Vance out there right now in the base. And I'm not surprised by these results. I'm really not. I am in one sense. The fact he won the straw poll, I'm not surprised by. The amount he won it by is what amazes me. I mean, Tim Scott was in second place at like 17%. He's almost 30 points behind. So take that for what it's worth. So that's the tale of one city, which now leads us to Hollywood. Okay. Joe Biden participated in a fundraiser out on the West Coast. Okay, fine. No big deal. And it was hosted by a lot of Hollywood, actors and actresses and, big poobahs out there and producers and big money people and people in Beverly Hills. And probably some of them came down or up from San Francisco, whatever. Okay, fine. It wasn't so much the fundraiser, and it wasn't even so much the amount of money they raised, which monetarily, Joe Biden had a great night. He did. He had an absolutely fabulous night. It's what came out of it at the end that's giving people in the Democrat Party serious amounts of heartburn right now and massive amounts of stress. I take you to NBC.com, or NBC News, I should say. Headline: Biden campaign rakes in $30 million for star-studded Los Angeles fundraiser. Article by Megan Lebowitz. We have the following. Dateline LA. The Biden campaign and its allies raked in more than $30 million as part of a star-studded fundraiser, breaking the record for the Democrat Party's largest fundraising event, the campaign announced. President Joe Biden appeared at an LA fundraiser alongside former President Barack Obama, actors George Clooney and Julia Roberts, and comedian Jimmy Kimmel. Quote, "This Saturday, we're going to see an unprecedented and record-setting turnout from the media and entertainment world," said campaign co-chair Jeffrey Katzenberg in a statement. "The enthusiasm and commitment for Biden and Harris couldn't be stronger. We all understand that this is the most important election of our lifetime," end of quote. A campaign official said that the fundraiser money will be used to open offices, hire organizers, and launch paid media campaigns to communicate directly with the voters. The Biden campaign announced on Saturday that the event had raised $28 million, which they said broke fundraising records for the party. Funds continued flowing in, bringing the final fundraiser haul to more than $30 million, a campaign official said on Sunday. NBC News reached out to the Democrat National Committee to ask whether the event broke fundraising records. NBC cannot independently verify the claim, as the fundraising numbers are not immediately reflected in the FEC, Federal Election Commission data. Okay, let's talk about this fundraiser out in California, shall we? Am I surprised that Joe Biden went out to California to raise money? No. There's a lot of millionaires, a lot of almost billionaires, maybe a few billionaires hanging out in the Golden State. Okay. Am I surprised that when he went to California, he tapped Hollywood to help him make money? No. Hollywood is predominantly run by leftists. They support Biden. They support his agenda. I'm not surprised by that either. Am I surprised he raised $30 million? No, not necessarily. With that kind of money and that kind of people floating around, not surprised by that at all. However, Gypsy, I will give you this. That is an absolutely fair point. You mean you're right in the middle of Hollywood and all those millionaires and near billionaires and maybe a few billionaires, and you can only raise $30 million? Okay. All right, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that. I'm not surprised by anything that I just talked about. What surprised me were two things that came out of that fundraiser Saturday night. Okay. And one of them is a comment or a couple of comments that Joe Biden made directly. And then it was the end of the event that kind of blew your mind. Folks, there's been a lot of heat been put on the United States Supreme Court lately, which is disappointing because the court is not a political institution. Okay, it's not like they're out there running for office. It's not like they're partisan. If they're appointed to the bench and they're confirmed by the Senate, they are there for life. They just write their opinions. But lately, there's been a lot of heat put under people like Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, and others. And Biden took it one step further. Folks, do me a favor. This clip runs about 11 seconds. Check this out.
The Supreme Court has never been as out of kilter as it is today. I mean, never. The fact of the matter is that this has never been a court that's been this far out of step.
Okay. Out of kilter, out of step. By whose standards? Yours? The court does one thing, or more to the point, it's supposed to do one thing, sir, and that is interpret the law. You just don't like how they are interpreting it. Which, by the way, all you lefties out there who are kicking around the idea of expanding the size of the United States Supreme Court so you can pack a few more judges on there, you do that to your political peril. Keep in mind, conservatives like me, and those long before I ever came along, have been working tirelessly for decades to get conservatives on the bench, to move them up the line from district judge to appellate judge to circuit court judge to the Supreme Court. Now, there were some bad choices along the way, and God knows I could sit here and list them off. But conservatives, by and large, played the game by the established rules. 9 seats on the Supreme Court. 1 comes open. If we happen to have a conservative Republican president, let's try and get a originalist on the court, somebody who will just simply interpret the law and not write the law from the bench. Okay? Now, because there's a quasi-conservative, keep in mind I say quasi because some of those conservative jurists, they're not nearly as conservative as you like to think. It depends on the issue, okay? But now, because there's a quasi-conservative majority on the court, all of a sudden liberals out there are just all bent out of shape about how the court is ruling. And trust me, if you think the howls of protests are bad now, kids, wait till between now and next Friday, the 28th of June. Believe me, you're going to hear howls of protest so loud it might split your eardrums. It's going to be so bad. If some of these decisions are coming down that we think are coming down are going to go the way that many people believe, You're going to hear protests come out. You're going to hear people cussing. You're going to hear, and again, I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong. And I hope I'm not wrong. But if oral arguments and everything else are any indication of how this is going to go down, you're going to see a lot of people who are lefties in this country be very, very upset. Okay. But Joe Biden took it one step further, and I don't have all the clip here. He was naming names of jurists and just absolutely attacking the integrity of the court. Now, it's one thing from a Jamie Raskin to do it. It's another thing for a Chris Murphy from Connecticut to do it, etc. But now you've got the President of the United States leading the chant. This is not good. So that was one thing that was kind of surprising that came out of this whole thing. But it's the last thing that everybody saw that has got everybody's tongue wagging. Folks, I've got a clip. It runs about 42 seconds long. Now, let me set this up for you. And probably you guys have seen this, but we're going to talk about it. WWG1 says, I don't know what guy you don't want to be, but I agree with you. You are correct that the government is only there to enslave. Oh, he's talking to Zippy. My apologies. So this is the end of the fundraiser. Now, part of the fundraiser was a sit-down conversation between Jimmy Kimmel, Joe Biden, and former President Barack Obama. Okay? And this clip has absolutely been making the rounds. As a matter of fact, this one version of it, if you look down here, it's got like 1.5 million views. This thing's been getting around. So at the end, Jimmy Kimmel asks his last question. Joe Biden gives his last answer. And the music starts to play. I'm going to play this in its entirety. I want you to watch this very carefully. Okay? Here we go. All right, let me back that up. And I'm sure you guys saw it. Okay, right about here. Let me play this again. Watch this. Barack Obama is grabbing Joe Biden by the arm and kind of giving him a tug like, hey, Joe, let's go. And then they walk off stage together. Now, that clip, if it were just by itself, wouldn't be so bad. No, I'm serious. It wouldn't be quite so bad. You could say, Barack's just trying to move everything along, yada, 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 etc. All right. But when you take it in with Biden's behavior at the G7 summit, with the whole parachuting incident, you take into account the Juneteenth celebration on the White House lawn. You take into account the newspaper articles from the UK Sun and the Italian newspapers, their reporters who were covering the G7 summit. You take all that into account, and then you throw this on top of it. Right now, there are varying levels of abject panic setting in. Zippy over on Rumble says, yeah, lead the old man away. He has nap time. Exactly. That's exactly what this looks like. That Joe Biden is being led around by somebody else. In this case, his former boss, who many people believe is actually running the White House as opposed to Joe Biden. Okay? Well, needless to say, that clip got a conversation going in the White House press room. I got a clip here with Karine Jean-Claude Pierre, as I lovingly refer to her, and it runs about 2 minutes. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but you have got to hear her explanation of what's going on here. This is going to, a matter of fact, Gypsy at the very start of the live stream tonight, popped off a comment. I know she was joking, so I'm not upset at all. It's like, yeah, it's a cheap fake. You've got to hear this. So I'm going to play part of this. I'm not the whole thing. It runs about 2.5 minutes. But this is the cope that lefties out there are trying to pacify themselves with as they watch this whole thing, okay? Do me a favor, check this out. This will blow your mind.
Say something about Maloney. I don't have anything. I don't know specifically what happened with Maloney.
The wandering, the parachutist.
Oh, I mean, look, that was, as I said, it was a cheap, a cheap fake. That was definitely a cheap fake. It was. This was widely fact-checked. That video was widely fact-checked, including by conservative media, on what happened, what occurred. The president walked over to give a thumbs up to divers who had just landed right in front of him. And if you run that tape a little bit longer, you would see what was happening, what the president was actually doing, and it is a cheap fake.
So that is what about nothing, and he's totally normal.
What I'm saying is, this is a president, right? Let's step back for a second. Instead of, and I said this moments ago, instead of Republicans, focusing on the president's performance in office and what he's been able to accomplish, his actual record, they do these cheap fakes. They're cheap fakes. And you're asking me about the Maloney, you're asking me what happened. That video was, okay, let's talk about Juneteenth.
Okay, I'm going to stop this right here. They're cheap fakes. They're cheap fakes, don't you know? It's fake. It's all fake. Don't believe what you see with your lying eyes. Listen to what I tell you. And you need to believe me because I'm Jean-Claude Van Damme Pierre, and daggone it, I'm an important person. Now, I will say this. I will give her this. In one sense, she's absolutely right. Okay? With regard to the parachute incident, okay? If you take that from a different angle, Biden is walking over to the parachutes and he's trying to talk to them. Okay, I'm being as fair as I can be with that. She's right about that part of it, but that's not the point. Why is he walking over to talk to the reporters? He's not supposed to be doing that. In that moment, when the last parachutist came in, who had attached to his heel that special flag that was made for the G7 summit in Italy, at that moment, the leaders were to stand there and have their picture taken. But instead, you got the President of the United States, the supposed leader of the free world, wandering around doing God only knows what. Macron of France and Rishi Sunak of Great Britain are looking at each other like, what the hell is he doing? We have no idea what the hell he's doing. What's going on there? Maloney has to go over like a granddaughter, turn granddad around and say, oh, Mr. President, we need you over here. That's not deep fake. Karine, I have bad news for you, honey. That's not deep fake. That's not cheap fake either. And by the way, if we're talking about cheap fake, why don't we talk about the reporters from the UK Sun and the Italian newspapers who were talking to members of the different delegations who were there at the G7 summit, speaking on condition of anonymity and background, saying this is the worst we've ever seen him. There are moments when he's lucid, and then there's moments you can't tell if he has the ability to concentrate. And I said this on Saturday, keep in mind, these are reporters who have no dog in the hunt as far as here in America, okay? They don't work for the Washington Post. They don't work for the LA Times. They don't work for the New York Times. They don't work for CNN or MSNBC or anybody else. They cover politics in their nation. It just so happened the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, the leader of the West, showed up at the G7 summit in Italy, and they're observing him, and they're talking to people who are observing him, and these reporters are coming away going, oh my God, this guy's in bad shape. Embarrassing was one of the words that was used to describe Biden. That's not cheap fake Republicans, camera angling certain things to get the shot they want to make Biden look bad. Biden's looking bad all on his own. Don't need the Republicans to help him with that. But this is the cope that's being passed around right now, and it's not helping anybody. Why is she saying cheap fake and not deep fake? What's really going on? Good question. I have no idea. Yeah, exactly. WWG1 over on Rumble says, I know the theory. I am seeing it in the sense that so it's strange the outcome. Oh, okay. Again, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your conversations, guys. This is crazy. I mean, Karine, I got bad news for you, honey. You can keep telling yourself this all you want to. You know, but it's not going to help you. I would label Kamala as a cheap fake. No, I'd label Kamala as a cheap date. I could say some things worse, and I will refrain from doing it. Believe me, you have no idea the restraint that I'm putting down on myself right now. Anyway, but yeah, this is what they're doing. But I got bad news. This is not helping anybody right now. Okay, and Miranda Devine of the New York Post makes a fabulous point. This is a tweet she put out today talking about that clip from LA. If the White House doesn't like this video, then they should have asked President Obama not to treat the president like a helpless dementia patient in public. That is absolutely true. I mean, why isn't somebody in the White House ringing up the former president going, hey, you didn't exactly help our guy out here, you know? Which, by the way, I doubt that's going to happen because most people realize that Obama really has no use for Joe Biden. Of course, you can make the argument Obama has no use for anybody, you know. But I mean, this is crazy. This is how you guys in the White House and the Biden campaign are going to cope with this? You're going to accuse everybody of deep faking it? Give me a break, lady. You know, I've been wanting to say this about Karine Jean-Claude Pierre for quite some time now, and I'm just going to out and out do it, okay? Look, I'm 52 years old. I've been watching politics since I was 17. I have seen all kinds of press secretaries come and go. The first one that I ever really noticed with any interest was the legendary Marlin Fitzwater. He was press secretary under Reagan and then under Poppy Bush. And I've seen a bunch of them come and go. D.D. Myers, Jody Powell. Powell was actually Carter, going back a little further. I mean, Dave Gibbs, just a blue Ari Fleischer, you know, the late Tony Snow. Just a bunch of them. Karine, I got bad news for you, honey. When it comes to the people who have preceded you, you couldn't fill out their sports bras, and you damn sure can't carry their jock straps. You are terrible at your job. The only reason you've got it is that you're black and a woman, and you happen to fill the quota. That's it. You are atrocious at what you do. Do I expect a certain amount of spin doctoring from a press secretary? Yeah. You, on the other hand, may be the worst press secretary I have ever seen in the close to 40 plus years I've been watching American politics. Not that I'm any kind of expert, and you don't certainly have to answer to me. But if you actually think you're doing a good job, you're more delusional than I thought you were. But anyway, let us continue. So while Karine Jean-Claude Pierre is out there passing around the copium to try and help everybody get by, Trump just keeps on coming. Just kind of like that scene in Rocky 2. I saw you beat that man like I ain't never seen you beat nobody before. And the man kept coming. And you want to know how he keeps coming? Here's the clip from CNN. You want to know why Donald Trump is in the hood in Detroit? You want to know why he's talking about going to Chicago? You want to know why he's going to the Bronx? You want to know why he's going to the bodegas in Harlem? You want to know why he's running radio ads over African-American radio stations all across the country, particularly down in Atlanta, Georgia? You want to know why? Folks, I'll show you. This is from CNN, and keep in mind, we got 5 months to go. So you want to know how Trump's doing with the African American vote? Darius, this one's for you, baby.
CNN senior data reporter Harry Etten is with us. So where does the race stand among African American voters right now?
Yeah, I keep looking for this to change, to go back to a historical norm, and it simply put has not yet. So this is the margin, or Biden and Trump among black voters, compare where we were at this point in 2020, compare where we are now. You know, at this point, look at this. In 2020, Joe Biden was getting 86% of the African American vote. Look at where it is now. It's 70%. That's a 16-point drop, John. And more than that, it's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground. It's that Donald Trump is gaining ground. You go from 7%, single digits at this point in 2020, to now 21%. And again, John, I keep looking for signs that this is going to go back to normal, and I don't see it yet in the polling. If anything, right now, we're careening towards a historic performance for Republican presidential candidate, the likes of which we have not seen in 6 decades.
And when you
okay, now it's what happens next. It's what happens next that really, to me, is extremely important. Guys, I know you guys are always paying attention to everything that we put out here on the Electronic Front Porch, but I beg of you, if there's anything you're listening to tonight, listen to this next segment, because it goes to something that we've been talking about now for weeks and months since this channel has been in existence, talking about politics in America. Check this out, because if you want to know why this split is happening, the next part of it is going to explain it in detail.
dig into this number here, what is the makeup of that number?
This is where we get very interesting. So I decided to dive deeper into the crosstabs, figure out where is it that Joe Biden is truly struggling among black voters. All right. So this is black voters, Biden versus Trump margin. Look at black voters age 50 and older, and you'll see, look, Joe Biden was leading amongst this group at this point by 83 points back in 2020. Now it's 74 points. So yeah, a slight decline in that margin, but nothing out of this world. Look at black voters under the age of 50. Holy cow, folks. Holy cow. Look at this. Joe Biden was up by 80 points among this group back at this point in 2020. Look at where that margin has careened down towards. It's now just, get this, 37 points. That lead has dropped by more than half, Mr. Berman. I just never seen anything like this. I'm like speechless, because you always look at history and you go, okay, this is a historic moment. If this polling is anywhere near correct, we are looking at a historic moment right now where black voters under the age of 50, which have historically been such a big part of the Democratic coalition, are leaving it in droves.
Okay, I want to stop right there. I have said for the longest time, not that I'm the smartest cat in the world, but I'd like to think I've got the good sense to be able to see what's going on, usually. I've said for the longest time, this election, perhaps more than any other, is generational. Now, what am I talking about? Generational in two respects. One, this is the last election where you will have men of the generation of Donald Trump and Joe Biden seeking the office. You might get one more, maybe two, but this is it. For the boomers, this is their last run. What comes up after these guys is Gen X, the millennials, etc. Okay? So that's one sense how it's generational. But the other sense is what you're seeing here. Those statistics, and I'm going to put this back up. I'm not going to play it, but I'll just show it to you again. Look, let me back this up so you can see it just a little bit better. Let me see if I can find a good, clean angle where y'all can look at this. Yeah, here we go. We're getting close. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Let me pop down here. There we go. Among African Americans above the age of 50, Biden's still winning, but he's only winning by like 3-1. But if you go down to African Americans below the age of 50, he's not doing nearly as well. Okay? what you're seeing, and this is just my opinion of it. I mean, Darius, if you want to jump in on this one, go for it, dude. What you're seeing is a generational shift in the African American vote in America. Keep in mind, African Americans above a certain age are going to remember the days of the Civil Rights March. They're going to remember the I Have a Dream speech. They're going to remember Selma, Alabama. They're going to remember Montgomery. They're going to remember all these things, right? They're going to remember that it was the Democrats who got the civil rights bills passed, even though that's not totally true. If it weren't for the Republicans, you never would have gotten the civil rights legislation or the Voting Rights Act of 65. Okay? But younger African Americans are coming up and they're going, hey, Democrat Party, what have you done for me lately? You've been promising me stuff for years. You've been telling me how the Republicans are bad people. And what have you done for our community? We've still got crime. We've still got problems. You're letting illegal immigrants swarm across our border. They're taking our jobs. Our people are trying to get help from the social safety net. And you got forget the social safety net. Illegal immigrants have practically got hammocks set up on the strands that make up the social safety net. Now, I'm not saying that African Americans below the age of 50 are automatically going to become Republican. What I'm saying is their vote is up for grabs. And the right set of issues communicated the right way as time goes by, more and more that vote could start moving to the political right. Like I said, I'm not, and by the way, keep in mind, I don't think the Republicans have earned the African American vote. Right now, they're getting it in part by default because of the fact that Trump's the nominee. Let me pose this idea, and this is just supposition here. And I don't think this necessarily stops with African Americans either. People don't view Donald Trump as Republican. Now, I know that sounds weird because he's running in the Republican Party. He's running for their nomination to run for president, yada, yada, yada. They don't view Trump as a Republican. That's part of why I think Trump is doing so well with the African American vote. They're looking at Trump saying, this guy's rich. This guy's lived the life. This guy has done it. This guy's an entrepreneur. This guy has made it. I want some of what he's got. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. He's a Republican. That's a great way of putting it. Across the specter and a number of Democrat-run states, young African Americans are changing their votes because they see, yeah. I mean, when they can see illegal immigrants taking benefits, taking jobs, decreasing their wages, hurting their communities, causing more crime. Does anybody think they're just going to sit there and take that? I mean, how many times does somebody walk up and slap you across the face before you block the next slap, then turn around and hit them so hard they never do it again? Why is anybody surprised that African Americans, that their vote is up for grabs this time? The African American community is no different than any other community in America. They don't want to see this crap. They don't want to see what Joe Biden's doing. They don't want to see what the Democrats are doing, and they don't want it anymore. Do you know how many videos I have seen coming out of Chicago of all places, where African Americans there are just fed the hell up? They have had it. Zippy over on Rumble, thank you for the Rumble rant. Ironic, they failed, not due to their ideas, but DEI hires are hiring some good buddies, inbred twerps. Nepotism may yet be Darwin's form of ultimate form. Cackles. Interesting way of putting it. Yeah. They see and feel love and care and concern of a Trump-led America, not a Republican. Exactly. They don't view Trump as a Republican. I mean, maybe Republicrat's the way to put it. I don't know. We'll see. Black Americans have awakened to the horrible, disgusting scam perpetrated on them, and Trump is not. Okay, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. I could agree with that. No, you're all right, dude. You're good. Don't worry about it. You're fine. I'm glad you're here tonight chiming in. Glad to have you. Delayed or not, you're cool. But yeah, these numbers are horrible. Now, does that mean that Trump's going to get 20+% of the African American vote on election day? I kind of doubt it. Would I be shocked at all if he got in the high teens nationally? Nope. I wouldn't. 16, 17, 18%, wouldn't be surprised at all. And keep in mind, he got 12% in the last election. He got 12% in the last election. He's now polling at 20. If he increases his share of the African American vote between now and election day, and he gets up in like above 15, 16%, 17%, maybe even 18, Biden's goose is cooked. I'm not saying he's beaten, but he's going to have a very hard time winning this election. And it's not just the African American vote that's freaking out the Democrat Party. Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks. I don't often drop his name on my live stream. But Cenk Uygur was on with Piers Morgan and I believe Tommy Lahren and one other person. I don't know who the fourth one is. But man, you gotta hear this. This will crack you up. Whoo, Lord, you talk about beads of sweat just dripping down the foreheads of people. They are scared to death. Listen to this.
I get it. He looks energetic. Biden looks like, I mean, come on, guys. The emperor has no clothes. They hate me for telling people that the emperor has no clothes, but my job is in news. We all can see how incredibly old he is. So my point is, for God's sake, pull him. If you don't pull him, we're going to lose to Trump. Why do you want to lose to Trump? Why do you want to give up 10 points? Hate me all you want. And every Democrat says it's my fault. It's people, oh, no, you shouldn't tell people reality. They already see it. You've got to pull him if you want to beat Trump. If you don't want to pull Joe Biden, you're saying, I don't mind losing to Trump. I don't mind losing democracy. All the things that I said about Trump, I don't actually mean it. I don't think it's a big deal if he wins. That's why I'm running this guy who cannot move or speak. It's absolute madness.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. This is absolutely great. I'm telling you, there is abject panic sitting in out there. James Carville. Y'all know I love James Carville. Don't agree with him on a daggone thing, but I love Carville. You've got to hear this. Talking about Joe Biden's poll numbers. And it's just this is quintessential Carville. This is quintessential Southern politicking. Check this out, because this will ought to make you laugh.
I don't think people really appreciate how bad Biden's poll numbers are. When you look at them, it's like walking down your grandmother naked. You can't unsee them, no matter how hard you try. I don't.
Oh my God. I love Carville. It's like walking in your grandma naked. You can't unsee that. Oh, this is great. Oh my goodness. I am telling you, it's, I mean, folks, there is abject panic setting in. So much so, in fact, that there is a story that ran this morning in the UK Daily Mail. And if you think everything up to now has been absolutely crazy, you gotta hear this. I'm gonna, matter of fact, before we even get started with this, I'm gonna drop this story in chat on both Rumble and YouTube. Y'all can look at this thing at your convenience. All right, there it goes on Rumble, and here it comes on YouTube. It has gotten so bad that there is a supposed plan afoot. So that said, let me set this up, and here's the headline. Again, this is from the UK Daily Mail. Charlie Spearing is the writer. Headline: Secret Democrat plot to replace Biden revealed. How Clinton, Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer would topple the aging president and when they would do it. Now, the first part of this article deals with a lot of stuff that we've already been talking about. Okay. People making comments about Biden, various people saying he never should have run in the first place, people saying he needs to step aside. That stuff doesn't necessarily surprise me, but it's when you get into the guts of this article, and Charles Spearing's a fairly, from what I've read of him, okay? From what I've read of him, he's a fairly even-handed reporter, okay? But it's when you get about halfway into this thing that there's a story in here that kind of blows your mind. So let me read this. You guys tell me what you think. Now, DailyMail.com has learned that if Joe Biden stumbles in that first face-off with Trump, talking about the first debate on June 27th, or if his poll numbers keep falling, it'll take a united front of the liberal grandees to make Joe throw in the towel. Quote, the only people who could force him out would be Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer. One Democrat strategist told DailyMail.com it would have to be the four of them collectively, and the process would be high risk. One consultant theatrically described the difficulty of replacing their candidate as similarly to trying to turn that doomed container ship that careened into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore in May. That sad story ended with a total collapse and 6 deaths, but other party insiders concede that the candidate swap could work if everything was planned and executed. Political columnist Joe Klein theorized in a recent newsletter that if Biden were to stand down, a younger, more vigorous candidate, don't ask me who, could win over the country with a single convention speech in August. In Klein's scenario, the Democrat Party savior would deliver the Obama-esque inspirational speech akin to Barack's famous 2004 Democrat convention address that would quickly bring together disaffected Democrats and moderate independents. Going a little further into the article, plus, wrote Klein, the Democrat Party's prodigious dislike of Trump would unite any disaffected factions behind a new nominee, but there's another potential complication. As the recognized leader of the Democratic Party, a stubborn Biden could refuse to step down and fight on to Election Day, even as the party grows more exasperated with his performance. Biden is fiercely proud of his first-term accomplishments, which, dubiously, boasts are more significant than other modern presidents' triumphs, though, to be fair, Biden was the one who beat Trump in 2020. Folks, this is how bad it's getting. They're actually kicking around the idea, who could possibly walk into the Oval Office and tell Joe that it's over? Who would have the stature in the Democrat Party to make something like that happen? It's actually being verbalized in certain corners of the Democrat Party. And under some people's interesting scenario, it would take a Barack Obama or a Pelosi or a Schumer to walk into the Oval Office and tell Joe, you can't do it. You're not going to make it. We've got to try and save this thing. Let's talk about this for a second. Be good, my friend. Glad to have you here and glad you're able to stop in tonight. Okay, first of all, this is not actually happening yet. Second of all, this is all dependent upon the first debate, which has not happened yet. Even if Joe Biden has a bad debate performance, which we've got some columns coming up here in a minute to talk about the upcoming debate, okay? Even if Joe Biden did not have a good debate, look, I could be dead wrong about this, but I just can't see the Democrats replacing Joe Biden. I just can't. I mean, for a whole bunch of reasons, okay? Number one, let's consider the realities of the situation. We are less than 5 months to the election. Okay? There is no amount of time. In order to run a truly effective campaign, you have to have time and money. Okay? Campaigns are built around the candidate. I'll come back to that point in a minute. But point number one is the Democrats do have a deep bench. The problem is they don't have a popular bench. Here is the scary part about it. And Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, says this better than anybody else. Joe Biden is the most popular Democrat in America. Now, y'all hear me make that statement. And you're sitting there going, ain't no way in the world. This guy's polling at maybe like sub 40%, 38, 39%, 40 or 41 if you're being generous. That's absolutely true. And all the other Democrats around the country who you would substitute in their name for Biden poll worse than he does. If it's Gavin Newsom, which there's one content creator out there, Lionel, who is he is absolutely convinced Joe Biden's going to be removed before the convention, and they're going to put Gavin Newsom in. I got Lionel. I love you, and you are way smarter and way more experienced than I am. But sir, I profoundly disagree with you. If you put Gavin Newsom in for Joe Biden, you can kiss the Midwest goodbye. Gavin Newsom will cost them Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and God only knows what else. Minnesota might be off the table. Crap, I'd say Illinois is in play. You put Newsom in, you lose the South, and you will lose the Midwest. All it takes is about 2 minutes of video film from any city in California. Okay? Any city in California. Run that for 2 minutes. Ain't nobody in the Midwest or the South is going to vote for Gavin Newsom. Gretchen Whitmer. Okay, she might help you keep Michigan. Maybe help you do well in Wisconsin. Maybe Pennsylvania. But trust me, when people get to know her personality, there's a reason why I call her the Wicked Witch of the Midwest. She's just like Hillary. Nobody's going to like her. Nobody likes her now. If we could have ran a good candidate against her in 2022 with a sufficient amount of money, I still say Gretchen Whitmer could have been beaten. Okay? So Whitmer's not going to help you. Okay, so there's the two biggest names right there. What are you going to do? Go get J.D. Pritzker out of Illinois? Pritzker brings you nothing. Illinois, the Democrats are going to win anyway. J.D. Pritzker does nothing for you in Michigan, Wisconsin. All right, maybe Wisconsin. You might get closer in Wisconsin. But nobody knows who Pritzker is. Despite the fact that he, Newsom, and others have been running shadow campaigns in the meanwhile. If you take Joe Biden out and put somebody else in, they're going to be less popular than Biden. You're looking at a bigger electoral loss, plus the whole Congress. Which gets to my second point. Campaigns are built around the candidate. A really good presidential campaign takes about a year and a half to build. From forming the exploratory committee on the front end to the day of the election. It takes groundwork, it takes infrastructure, it takes money. You just can't pull one candidate out and plug another one in like you're changing, fuses in a breaker box. It doesn't work like that. There are going to be people working in the Biden campaign that if you plug in anybody else, they'll be like, screw you, I didn't sign up to work for this guy, I'm out of here. Now, that's one thing. If you're talking about staff, there might be money people like, I like Joe Biden, but screw this guy. I ain't giving him a dime. The whole infrastructure that's been built around Joe Biden, you pull him out now, and you run the risk of tearing up the gears in the machinery and taking away the oil of the engine, which is the money. Okay? It's not going to happen. They're not going to replace him. And you guys know me. If I'm wrong, I'll come back here and tell you. Okay? But I just don't see it. I can't see them replacing Joe Biden. No matter how much they might like to, they can't now. The convention is, what is today? The 17th of June? The convention is 2 months away. The first debate is coming up in 10 days. You Democrats, you wanted him, you got him, you're stuck with him. You get what you pay for. And boy, did you pay for him. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay. All right. Irrationality makes people do crazy things. Maybe they will do this. But if they do this, if you want the palpable sign of desperation, if you want the ultimate proof of how scared they are of Trump coming back, they do this, absolutely. The terror will have set in. And by the way, it ain't going to help them. It will, whoever it is, Newsom, Whitmer, Pritzker, doesn't matter. They might get a temporary bump in the polls, but trust me, when people start finding out their record, particularly if it's Newsom, when they start finding out the record of the substitute Democrat, and they start learning about the issues, there ain't no way in the world that temporary bump's going to go right in the toilet. Along with the Democrats' hope of retaining any amount of power in D.C. They'll lose the White House, they will definitely lose the Senate, and they most certainly will lose the House. They'll lose all of it. The Republicans will sweep the whole thing. And the Republicans may sweep the whole thing now, even though they don't deserve it. Yes, you heard me right. The Republicans in Congress do not deserve the majorities in 2025. They don't. They're terrible. The only thing that'll get them there is Donald Trump, and they better, let me tell you something, they better kiss his rear end the whole way and thank God that he's getting people out to vote for them, if they even do. Now, as far as the debate, there are details that have emerged. Okay. The debate is coming up 10 days from today. We are going to live stream it on my channel. It'll be 9 p.m. Eastern. Odds are I'll be on at 8:30. Ruben Christopher Haynes is going to be with me. We're going to see who else wants to sit in for this little soiree. But we have some details about the debate. We'll talk about it real quick. This is from USA Today. CNN announces additional details on June debate, including muted mics and podium position. Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. Dateline, Washington. CNN announced additional details of the June 27th debate between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump, setting the stage for what is expected to be a tumultuous standoff between the two frontrunners ahead of the general election. The 90-minute debate held in Atlanta will be moderated by CNN's Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Both campaigns have already accepted the invitation to the debate and agreed to the rules set forth in the debate, according to CNN. There will be 2 commercial breaks, but the campaign staff can't interact with the candidates during that time. The debate won't feature a live studio audience, as have other general election debates in the past. And candidates' podium positions will be determined by coin flip, according to a CNN news release. And more notably, microphones will be muted during the debate, except when it is the candidate's turn to speak, according to CNN. The candidates will be provided with a pen and pad of paper and a bottle of water, but are prohibited from bringing props or pre-written notes. CNN wrote in its release that the moderators will be allowed to use all tools at their disposal to enforce timing and ensure a civilized discussion. Okay. Oh, God. I saw that. I don't have it pulled up, but I saw it. We may do that. that's going to be for tomorrow night. So thank you for reminding me. There are apparently there's a rumor afoot that there might be a change, one more change to the debate. I don't know if you guys have seen this today, but per two sources, including one at CNN, the Biden campaign is trying to renegotiate the debate rules to allow Biden to be seated. This would be a major format change from what is agreed to. Now, normally these debates run about an hour and a half, okay? Maybe 2 hours at the most. So let me get this straight. If this is true, and again, if this is true, we don't know, but if this is true, you mean to tell me the President of the United States can't stand up for 2 hours? Look, I'm not trying to be unkind to a gentleman who's older, but you are President of the United States. You can't stand on your feet for 2 hours? Now, the Biden campaign, along with trying to get this this change that they want, has also proposed how the seating arrangement should look. And I did get my hands on a copy of this, so I thought I'd put this out there. This is what the Biden campaign is proposing for the seating arrangement. If there is a change to be made, that the candidates are to be seated, this is apparently what the Biden campaign is asked for. Just saying. Anyway, you know me. I'm always about trying to bring information and news to you guys. I got my hands on this. I thought you guys might want to know. This is the proposal for the seating arrangement if the candidates are to be seated. Just saying. All right. A couple of more things as it relates to the debate. And with that, we'll wrap it up for the night. There are a couple of great columns that ran over the weekend. And I'm going to go ahead and drop both of these in Rumble and YouTube chat. Because I think you guys, if you haven't seen them yet, I would really recommend them to you. I truly would. All right. And they both come from individuals at the New York Post. One of them, who is one of my absolute favorite writers, is Michael Goodwin. And I love Mike Goodwin's columns. He has that old school sort of, man of the world. I've been around the block, cigar chomping, whiskey drinking, I got to meet my deadline. I can type it up in 5 minutes. Just give me a scotch kind of guy. Now, I could be dead wrong about that for all I know, but he's got that kind of flavor to him. And he's got a headline from Sunday's New York Post. Joe Biden's rough stretch continues as his debate with Donald Trump is on the horizon. I want to go into this because there's part of this that I think definitely ought to be read. And this is from Michael Goodwin. Although Trump has managed to put some formerly blue states in play, especially Nevada, the overall race remains razor close, with his small leads in the swing states falling within the margin of error. The upshot is that the debate could be pivotal. In a recent interview, Trump made it clear he is not counting on Biden being a mumbling, stumbling wreck at their Atlanta face-off. Quote, "They'll juice him up," Trump told me, speaking of the president's handlers. "He'll be fine. Whatever they gave him for the State of the Union, they'll do it again." Trump might be right, and at any rate, it's smart not to count on Biden being at his worst. For one thing, the two CNN moderators, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, have relentlessly trashed Trump for 8 years, and it's unlikely they'll even remember how to be fair. Watch for their attempts to protect Biden by quickly moving to another topic when he stumbles. Citing the clock is a trick left-leaning moderators often use to rescue Democrat candidates from a jam. When he's on offense, the president will repeatedly turn to buzzwords that resonate with the Dems' base. January 6th, convicted felon, and democracy, democracy, democracy. Trump will have to answer each charge repeatedly, and his answers are likely to include accusations that Biden is orchestrating the string of persecutions prosecutions and civil cases against him. At the same time, Trump may debate history by honestly saying that indictments by Democrat prosecutors helped make him the nominee, which is true. More important than any choice of words, however, will be Trump's demeanor. The best antidote to the left's caricatures of him as a fascist and a buffoon are calm, coherent, and factual responses. Bottom line, Trump needs to act and sound more like a president than a challenger. In that sense, Hunter Biden's conviction poses a tricky terrain. Given that Joe Biden lied in their second debate 4 years ago about his son's laptop being Russian in a plant, Trump would be foolish not to cite the fact that the laptop has been authenticated by the Justice Department. But if he goes too far and gloats over the president's son being convicted, Biden could win the sympathy vote. In fact, Trump doesn't need to take many risks. Because he holds the momentum, he can win the debate simply by not losing it. That's his biggest advantage. Biden, meanwhile, has to go for the knockout. Doubts about his fitness and policies give him little room to maneuver, which is why I believe his attacks will aim to reinforce doubts about Trump's character. The risk for Biden is that if he gets too hot and begins shouting like an old man telling children to get off his lawn, abortion will probably be the only policy opening Biden can exploit. That's all great advice. And for my part, I don't disagree with the word Goodwin's got in his column. Okay? If I were Trump, be smart, be cool. If someone throws you a piece of red meat, don't take the debate. Go into the debate, be calm, be presidential, lay out your agenda for what you want to do. Okay? And contrast that with Joe Biden's 4 years. You do that, and you let Biden be Biden, you might just bury him proverbially speaking, you might bury Joe Biden by the end of the first debate. Because I think Goodwin's got a great point here. Joe Biden has to win this thing, and he's got to do it convincingly. Now, one more related to this. Miranda Devine, one of my favorites. Don't fall for Joe Biden's nice old man act. He's just lowering expectations, and that's a good point. But Republicans should not fall into the trap of emphasizing Biden's increasing befuddlement, as viral as such moments are to a world astonished that America now resembles the end stages of Soviet decrepitude. Ugh. The strategy risks engendering sympathy for a man who deserves none and lets him off the hook for all the damage he has wrought on this country. It also plays into Biden's superpower, being underestimated. He must act like a doddering incompetent, he might act like a doddering incompetent, look like a wax effigy, and walk like a robot. But the president has the uncanny ability to exceed all expectations when it counts politically. We're told he plans to hole up a Camp David for the best part of a week before the upcoming debate. Whatever magic tricks are involved in his debate prep, you know it will be different than Joe Biden at the podium June 27th than the one we've seen wandering around Europe like a defective Roomba. That's a great way of putting it. So yeah, if I give Donald Trump any advice getting ready for this thing, do not underestimate Biden. I think Trump's absolutely right. If they are giving him anything by way of a shot, they're going to pump him good and full. And he will come out of the gate swinging. Okay? Take his best punches, counter effectively, be calm, be cool, but do not underestimate it. And more importantly, do not take this debate lightly. You do that, you'll be fine. Zippy over on Rumble says, gruesome, talking about Gavin Newsom, is not a choice. I bet they run AOC and Hillary as the Veep. Ugh. Your lips to God's ear, because if they run AOC, you're looking at a 40-state wipeout. I'd say she'd lose New York. Anywho, that's all I've got tonight for Chatting on the Porch. Sorry to be so long-winded, but I've seen all this stuff. I've been chomping at the bit to talk about it. We will be back tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, and we'll be having more news, more information. Keeping an eye on the Supreme Court because there's a lot of cases about to come down. I got a feeling it might be Thursday. We'll see. But as it stands right now, we'll be back tomorrow night, so please tell your friends. And on the way out, if you haven't done it yet, please give me a thumbs up. I would genuinely appreciate it. And thank you for subscribing to my channel. I love you guys. You're absolutely fantastic. So we're going to call it a night. Remember, 7:30 tomorrow night on Rumble, on Twitter, and that quaint little alternative social media platform known as YouTube. As we start to sign off, as always, I leave you with the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall. Remember, it's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money. I love you guys. We'll see you Tuesday night at 7:30.